Welcome to A Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
And my little sweetness as my guy.
Good, 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 good. We were going to talk about stress and how to manage it, I guess. Yeah, stress. It's funny. I think we've talked about this before. I think we've had a
We're we're
conversation like this
we're, we're
before.
getting we're getting old. We're starting to repeat our stories.
I mean,
It comes with age.
more than just that, the last episode's title, I didn't realize that I made that same title a year ago. And I was just like, after I published it, I'm like, wait a second, did I do something? And then I went back and checked, like, yep, sure enough, it was the
It
same
reminds
time.
me of there was one time in fifth grade where the teacher wanted us to make up some songs,
Mm-hmm.
and so each kid stood up and sang the song that they made up. And I didn't realize that when I sang the song, this kid yells, "Hey, that was my song that I sang a couple months ago!" And I went, "Oh." I said, "No." And so I said, "No wonder I thought of it."
Yeah, it's funny we were talking about it because I was speaking to Ruthie and we were just joking around with it. We were singing songs, but we were like, messing around with the lyrics. Like there's a song I think by Michelle Branch, and it
Oh
goes,
my.
"You're every you're Jeez Louise, wow. Take three. You're everything to me. When I close my eyes, it's you I see." And it goes on and on. So we had this whole thing of like, when you're everything to me, when I close my eyes, I have to pee. And then then we started like coming up with like other random stuff. And we were just and like we were trying to compete with like the lyrically, and then like
Mhm.
I came up with better words, and she's like, "Yeah, because you have better experience." Because I remember with
There was
you,
there was a country western song many years ago when I was in, I think, junior high school, something. You know,
yeah,
with radio today, with the enhanced without the enhanced audio,
hmm
you can really hear the words very clearly.
yes,
But in my day,
yes,
when 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 you just heard these songs on the radio, it was very easy to misunderstand the lyrics. And there was this one country western song. What was it? I forgot. Johnny Rich, I think was his name, something like that. And the real lyrics were, "Every time I touch you, I get high." So I started to sing, "Every time I touch you, I get hives." And my sister yells at me, "It's not hives, it's hives."
It's funny you mentioned the idea of the thing like back in the day, recordings were really fuzzy. I had some trouble sleeping like a couple nights ago, and it was a Sunday, and I thought to myself, like, I remember as a kid, I'd be going to sleep by listening to the old radio shows. So I could
Mhm,
just easily find something online. So I went
mhm,
to Jack Benny and I wanted to take from the top, go to 1930s. And I
mhm,
played the 1930 audio, and it is so scratchy, I could
mhm.
barely make anything of it. And
Yeah.
then I shifted down to like
Mhm,
the 1940s, and it was a lot clearer.
mhm.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
but like, wow, like the audio must have just been terrible. How could anyone hear anything back then? I guess because like we're spoiled with it.
I guess so. I don't know. I have no idea, but I remember I was listening once to a an old recording of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony played by Berlin Philharmonic in 1945,
Okay.
towards the end of World War II, and uh, the the radio host said this was the first recording where the Germans were experimenting with stereo. This was one of the first recordings that was taken in stereo. And he says, by the way, you're going to hear what's going to sound like static. And it doesn't sound like static, but he said it wasn't static. It was a bombing raid
Oh
that was going.
wow.
This was when the Allied forces were closing in on Berlin.
Oh wow.
And the Berlin Philharmonic, in the middle of this bombing raid, made this recording of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And you could hear, and it did. It sounded. If the man had not said that this was the middle of a bombing raid, I just thought it was just static from the
Hmm.
recording. But no, he said it was there was basically the sound of the bombs exploding during this bombing raid.
Yeah, I always find that interesting when it comes to recordings and what you hear, because like even when I was a kid, and now of course it just happens because you have singers mispronounce things, and it's kind of like a style now of like like trying to sing like a song, and instead of me, it's they say may, it's just the way they do it. But I remember as a kid hearing lyrics on radio shows and being like, wait, what did he say? And then I'd sing the song to it, and then like I would sing a lyric to it, and then my friend, who was like very like specific on his lyrics, very into it, would like
Uh-huh.
correct me, like, what are you doing? Stop that. It's not real. That's not right. All right, fine, whatever.
Well, now that they have YouTube, where you can actually download the lyrics and see what the
Yes.
lyrics were. I've done that every now and then to like some old songs that I used to enjoy when I was a kid, and quite surprised to find out, yeah, that what the lyrics I thought they were not.
Well,
They're
I think
quite
it's so fun.
different. Yeah.
I think it's so funny because I remember as a kid, there was this guy that used to learn Mishnah with Yosef. He unfortunately passed away a couple years afterwards.
Yes.
Yes,
I remember him very well.
was,
Yeah, I think Aryeh got his last name.
yeah, he was a smoker, and he had pneumonia, and they just checked his lungs. They thought they were looking for like cancer, and they didn't see anything, but he died of pneumonia.
Because he was overweight and he was smoking, and they thought it was his heart. They thought, like you said, they thought it was cancer. His heart. They did it, and it turned out to be really sad. It turned out to be.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened. God, it was sad.
But I mean, I was too young to really understand like who he was. Like, he was a nice guy, cool guy.
Yes.
I know he got into like either like joking arguments, or he used to always tease Connie, I think. And then like Connie would get like upset with him sometimes. She would get all worked up, and he would probably just be poking her, just making fun of her, and she would get all worked up about something. But one of the things he was talking about was the song Louie Louie.
Yeah.
And like
that was another one. The lyrics of which, when I was a teenager, Edith, furry beast.
Furry beast.
Furry beast. This one, whenever we have these podcasts, why is she always likes to show her tush?
Yeah, that's actually a sign of I think it's of not camaraderie, but it's like they look at you as the mother now. When they show you their tush, it's because their mother used to lick their tush clean. So it's instinctively like, oh, you're my mother. That's fine. But yeah, the song Louie Louie, what's so funny is that it really wasn't anything dirty. It just sounded like it was dirty, but it was just made up, and like the audio was all muffled, so you couldn't hear it. And they kind of tagged it on anyways.
Yeah.
Sorry. Kind of tag the song as like something dirty just because it got more, hits, and it got more interest, but really it was just nothing.
That'd be an interesting topic. Also, I think we could discuss now about how is it publicity things.
Oh, publicity stunts
that people thought were true. Like, for years, you've heard that one about one of the Munchkins during the filming of Wizard of Oz hanged himself.
That's not real.
And you could see his legs dangling when and they just kept filming. That was a total publicity stunt. Never happened. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because nowadays the whole thing is cancel culture and people getting canceled. And it's like there were people that did, like artists and comedians, that would get canceled, but it worked out for them in the long run. Like this one comedian, Shane Gillis, he made a joke, and it was an off-color joke about Asians. And like because it was such a sensitive time, he was on SNL. He got kicked off of SNL. He lost all these I don't think endorsements, but I think he lost a lot of money and a lot of like opportunities. But he used that to kind of counter shift and create this other persona, and now he's, thank God, very successful. Or you have this comedian Louis C.K. who he got canceled, for basically asking women to watch him as he takes care of himself, and like he asked them, they said yes, but it just the thought process was, because he's a man of power, he can't go ahead and do that. It doesn't count. He has to like whatever. So he got canceled. He had to he lost $85 million and had to run away to France. But it got, because of the cancelness, it got more of an interest. So it's like you have people that like they get canceled, but it works out for them in the long run. But then again, it's just like, I don't know. It's just, that's just how life works, where it's like you're resilient, you work hard, something happens, okay, you resolve the issue and you get better.
Well, in my day, in the annals of history, during the time of Nikita Khrushchev, during the 50s and 60s,
Okay.
one of the things that the Soviets liked to do was they would send a lady of the evening to some big person of power with like a hidden camera, and then threaten them that if you don't do this or that for the Soviet Union in your government, we're going to show these photos. And you had like many people in power who in the western part of the country, caved into that because they were afraid of, of course, that in our culture, that would be like a real shanda, real no. Well, they fooled around. They pulled this on the wrong person. At that time, Sukarno was the dictator of Indonesia. And they didn't realize in the Indonesian culture, such a thing is like a badge of honor. So they approached Sukarno. They pulled this on Sukarno. And when they told him, we're going to make these photos public if you don't XYZ, let our military set up a base in your country, whatever. And he said to them, good, do it. Show my countrymen what a great lover I am. So they did. They made the photos. His popularity soared in his country. They thought, wow, it made him even more popular.
Well, it kind of reminds me of in France, it's just like the attitude of sexuality and sexual, partners is totally different. Like Macron, he married his school teacher.
Well, how much older was the school teacher than him? Because when you're in high school, a lot of times you get a lot of teachers there who you and they are just a couple of years apart, especially in your senior year.
So let me go find out. Okay, so Macron. So Macron is 45. She is 70. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Right.
Hey, it takes two to tango.
Love is love. Love is
but the
blind.
thing
Love
is,
love.
he's I think, what is he? He's not the, what do they call him? Not the prime minister, but like
Macron was the prime minister. He is, or he was?
No, he's the president. That's what it was. I knew it wasn't prime minister. It was something else. He's the president. He's the president of France. Yes.
Wow. I mean, I'm in my 70s, but
would you date a 45-year-old?
No, what 45 would be interested in me?
No. I didn't ask you to self-deprecate. My question is, would you date a 45-year-old?
I'm not self-deprecating, but I'm thinking in terms of nature.
I understand, but it takes all kinds.
I don't
40, 50, 50, 60.
Okay, maybe 60.
60. Okay, 60.
Okay, 60-ish. I wouldn't
60-ish.
mind. Maybe like 65, 68.
You wouldn't try to bag a younger guy?
What?
You wouldn't try to bag a younger guy?
No.
Okay, you wouldn't care to? You want maybe someone older? Like how many years?
What? Is there somebody interested in me that you know?
No, I'm just curious. It's a fun topic to talk about on the podcast. That's all. But wait, so would you date somebody that's like 5 years older than you?
Yeah, pretty much 5 years, but
10?
No, because someone offered me a shidduch.
Oh
with
yeah,
a guy in his 80s, and I said no way.
You told me earlier you were trying to date some guys, and you're very frustrated because you didn't like the fact that this guy was a whiner, and you wanted a guy to be like a man's man. Did I hear you correctly?
When was this?
Maybe about a week or two ago. I was talking to you. We were just having a conversation, and we're talking about like men, and I asked you like who are you dating right now? You said you were kind of dating this one guy, and he was just like very.
You have me mixed up with someone. I haven't dated
Ima.
anybody.
no, you were
I
telling
haven't
me that
dated anybody. I haven't gone out with anyone.
you went to a dating, what's it called? A dating, meet and greet, whatever you call it.
No, so it was
And
the Swingle Single Shabbos for senior citizens.
swinger singles Shabbos. That's what it's called. Swinger
I
singles.
know Swingle Singles Shabbos
Swi-
for senior citizens. Actually,
Senior
55 and
citizens
over.
swinger Shabbos.
Actually, it was 45 and over. It's 45 and over.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't
All
mean
right.
that. I'm trying to think. A guy who's a whiner.
You were he was complaining, and you didn't like the fact that he was complaining. He was complaining too much. We had this whole conversation, and I wasn't thinking of somebody else. I was talking to you. I don't think I spoke to anybody else talking about elderly people dating, except for you.
Who's elderly? I'm not old.
I mean, elderly. Sorry. Of course, young and spry. It's
Yes.
fine. I'm almost 40. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who the guy was a whiner. Was he whining about it? Going over in my mind. This guy was a whiner.
It's just a complainer.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, it's fine. We can move on. It's all right. No big deal. I have a question for you.
Yeah, but one of the people in our group got married.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, she's the one who always carries a gun.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, she's a big gun enthusiast. She was telling me she always carries a gun. Always,
nice.
wherever she
Good.
goes.
Good for
Even
her.
around the house, shopping, she always carries a gun. Yeah.
She told
me she goes a 9mm Glock.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice gun. If someone offered you a box of all your lost items, what would you find and why?
Where'd you get that question?
I don't care where I get it. The question is what, like, all of your lost items. What would you? What's the first thing you think of all your lost items? What?
My wedding rings.
Ooh.
Lost both of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the diamond that fell out of my diamond engagement ring, and I was never able to find it. Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Yeah. I remember that. Like,
I heard there's a Jewish idea that nothing is ever really lost. God knows where everything is. I wish he would let me on it though.
Yeah, exactly. If you had all the time and resources to build something, what would you build? Why?
I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love, grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves.
All right. After the Coca-Cola commercial, do you have anything in mind, or no? It's just a waste of a question on you.
What was the question again?
I literally was just telling you. I said, if you had all the time and resources to build something, what would you build and why?
The Chabad house in Corvallis.
Oh yes. Shout out to Menachem.
Yeah. Woo, woo. For your brother, I would if I told him, I said, if I ever win the lotto, Menachem, you've got it.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one.
I would really love to build that Chabad house for him.
Yeah. It's awesome. He'll get there. He'll get there.
It's amazing. I'll tell you I never realized before how amazingly difficult it is for these shluchim.
Yeah.
They leave their families. They leave here. Here they're used to spending their lives in a tight-knit Jewish community with all the amenities of kosher restaurants and shuls in every corner. And they leave their families. They leave these communities and they go out to the boonies where there's very little Yiddishkeit, even there, not as many Jewish people, no kosher restaurants, no shuls, no, nothing. And it's unbelievable how in 20 years, they've got a shul, they've got a preschool, they've got, maybe a restaurant or something. It's a nace, it's a mamish and nace, and it's not easy. And they feel, they feel very isolated. I can see what, your brother's going through.
Oh yeah.
How, there's a feeling of isolation for like the first year or two until you finally get,
A groove.
until you're finally able to establish yourself and get things going.
Well, I think that's what's so important, because if you take someone who's from, and they're very true to their frumkeit, they're very true to who they are, and they're in very comfortable. When you take them outside of their comfort zone, and they will still maintain a strong Yiddish environment, that creates such a strong hold on Yiddishkeit, and it is a sacrifice. It is an intense sacrifice. And I'm so happy that he's doing it. I'm so happy that I see shluchim all over the place, with my friends, the shluch in Pittsburgh, and he is in Corvallis, and my friends' brothers all the way down in I think in Tennessee or not Georgia, Kentucky, maybe, I don't know. The point is that they're all over the place, and it's being the rock for other Yidden. It's like you had your moment to go ahead and enjoy Yiddishkeit on Easy Street. Now you have to be the rock for all these other Jews. You have to be their foundation. And what I noticed and what I really appreciate is it makes them be realistic with what halacha is and with what's important in Judaism. Because you'll go to Crown Heights, and I'm not saying that they don't hold by this. I'm saying they do, but there is these nuances where it's like, well, it's Labab Shchita, it's Satmar Shchita, it's this. I don't hold by this Shchita, like just making stuff up, like not making stuff up, but like making situations where they get to be nuanced. And you take someone like that and you put them in the middle of nowhere, where it's just like, I haven't had meat in about 6 months because I hold by Labab Shchita. I haven't had a proper glass of milk in the past 7 months because I hold by Chalav Yisrael. I'm trying to establish what I can and do what I can with what I have, and I still need to hold on to my principles. And then you really start understanding what your principles are and what it really means to you. And I think that's what's so important, and that's why I admire a lot of shluchim that do that. Being a shluch is very admirable in my opinion, and it's something that, like, it's not taken lightly, and a lot of people want to be shluchim, and I'm glad that there's a lot of people that want to be, and it grows. I think this year was over 6,000 shluchim at the convention, but it's something that's very important, and that's why, like, I'd like to help financially with Menachem, but it's just like there's only so much I can do.
I know.
But
I think we all feel the same way.
Yeah.
Because we would all, it's only, we're not billionaires.
But you know what? I feel like he's getting there. I'd love to ask him, and maybe I'll give him a call after this and just ask him how's it going, because he's 3 hours behind right now, so it's like 6 something.
Yeah.
So I could call him right before I go to sleep. But moving on, I really like this topic, but I feel like we've spoken about it. I have another question lined up, but I don't know. I'm scared of the answer. If I got arrested, what would you think I did and why?
Oh God, no.
If I got arrested, what would you think I did and why?
I don't think you did anything. I think it would be like one of these things where it was like mistaken identity or something like that.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think you would do anything wrong. You're a good guy. I don't think you'd do anything wrong.
Wonderful. That's good. What would be the worst thing for the government to make illegal?
That they haven't already made them.
Right? I'm waiting for like that kind of comment.
Guns. Oh, please, we need them. Oh boy, do we need them. In fact, I don't know if you heard the news, but there were a couple like very strict gun laws especially like from New York.
In Maryland too, they just got abolished.
Yeah, they said that because and like here in Florida, DeSantis did away with a lot of the gun restrictions because he said something very practical. He says, the criminals are having no trouble getting a hold of guns. He says,
Yeah.
why not the honest citizen who needs them to defend himself against the criminals? Why do we make it hard for the honest citizen to get guns, whereas the criminals can get them very easily? And I think a lot of people are coming around to realizing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was thinking about, I keep going over in my mind, get a gun, should not get a gun, whatever. I was discussing it with with one of your sisters and her husband, and they said to me, well, why would you want a gun?
Yeah.
And I said, I'd be, I would want a gun,
If
God
it's
forbid someone
fun.
breaks into the house.
Yeah. But what if
But they
someone
said,
enters the room and you don't realize the problem I have
yeah,
with I'm a total Second Amendment guy. I agree with the
yeah,
Second Amendment. The thing
so
is
am I.
that when I was in Israel and I was talking to some people about guns, and
Mhm.
they said the problem is that you cannot be trigger happy because there are some yeshuvnikim living in a yeshuv,
Mhm.
and they hear something moving in the middle of the night. They take out their gun. They don't ask questions. They shoot.
That's
The
dangerous. Oh
a
God.
guy shot his son. His son was coming in, and he couldn't enter. He couldn't enter the main door because it was locked. He had no key,
Oh
so he tried to go into the
God.
window.
Oh God.
That is the issue with owning
Well,
guns and being
I tell
trigger
you, I
happy.
don't know a lot about guns, but I do have enough sense about me to know you never shoot unless you can identify your target. Absolutely, you don't just shoot like that. Because I not just we had a horrible story like that also when I was in high school
Oh wow!
around
Like what?
around our neighborhood around Milford Mill.
What was it? What happened?
Very similar. Father seeing someone in the kitchen,
Oh,
shooting, turned out to be his daughter,
oof.
who was going down to get a drink or something. You never shoot. It's common sense. Don't shoot until you can positively identify your target.
It seems like common sense, but unfortunately, when you're caught up in the moment and you're scared, it's like
So at least you say, you should say, I'm armed. Who's there? And if you
that's
don't answer me, I'm going to shoot. Who's there?
no. You're
And at
right.
least hear them.
You're right. You're right. I think that's what's so scary. That's why owning a gun is just that it's a lot of responsibility and
Oh,
it's a
sure.
lot of power in your hands. It's very that a little baby can have the strength to kill a grown man. That's
Sure.
what's so scary about it.
That's one of the things that stopped me. A couple things are stopping me. Number one, that I wouldn't just buy it. I mean, I would have to take out time to go to an actual range and be trained. I'm not that stupid. I know that I'd have to buy it and be trained. But I'm concerned about my grandchildren coming over, getting home,
Yep.
and so if you take safety precautions, like you take out the bullets, and put them in, take out the bullets. But if someone breaks in the house, what is your chance of getting a hold of those bullets, sticking them in the gun in time to defend yourself against this person? But what concerns me too, like as far as we Jews are concerned, about we're in such a precarious position that I think it's necessary that we should own guns. You never know to
Yeah.
like
Look,
prevent maybe another Holocaust. So we can at
I
least defend ourselves.
I agree. I've seen some people on the right make this meme, and I agree with it, and I think it's fine. A lot of people claimed it's anti-Semitic, but it's not. There was this one famous actress, Gina Carano, I think her name was. And she got banned for this from Disney. She had a picture old picture from World War II of this Jewish woman that was stripped naked running away from these Germans that were going to beat her up. And on the bottom it said, if she had a gun, this wouldn't have happened. Something like that. And like people were like, it's anti-Semitic. How could you? It's crude.
No.
And I'm like, no, that's exactly the issue. And a few other pictures was the picture of it's someone holding all the wedding rings that they found in Auschwitz.
I never saw that picture.
So there's a picture of so I think it's a U.S. soldier when they entered, and it's like a storage supply of like all these wedding rings, and he's like holding it in his hands. And at the bottom it said, these were people that this is what happens when you don't believe in when you believe in gun control. And I agree.
That was one of the first things the Hitler government did.
Yeah.
Was they put restrictions on selling guns. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And look, I agree with it 100%. It's just that owning one, it takes a lot of responsibility,
Yes.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
and like it's a lot to really comprehend and deal with, and to not take it lightly. And the problem, and that's why, like, I spoke to some of my friends from Israel, who
Mm-hmm.
there's gun laws. People own guns. A lot of people own guns, but there's a lot of gun laws. Like, you need to take classes. You need to have,
Mm-hmm.
your wits about you. You need to be careful of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they some of them are kind of like shocked how easy it is to purchase it, to get one here. I mean, there's still, it depends state by state,
Yes. Right.
comparing New
Uh-huh.
York City versus Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida, it's two opposite sides of the pole.
Right.
You talk about Montana and you talk about Baltimore City, it's two different things. But there
Mm-hmm.
still is an idea that you can, that it's for the citizen. But that's the whole point. It's to create your own militia to, overthrow the government. And the government understands that they should be scared of the people and be wary of their control. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the whole thing of all of that. That's why it's just like, when it's this checks and balances. It's why, to get any progress done in America, it takes so long,
Mm-hmm.
because you have these checks and balances of all the branches of the government, legislative, executive, and judicial.
Right.
um
Mm-hmm.
you know and all of them have to coincide and work together, and state, federal, all these other pieces together. And that if they don't coincide, then the law is not going to pass. And it's about preventing an over a control over a control of the government over the people. That's really what it's all. That's
Right.
what America is all about. And
Exactly.
a lot of times people don't understand that, or they don't comprehend that. They're not sure. They're
Did
like,
did I ever go over the story about what happened with the interview with the a New York Times reporter in Tojo after Pearl Harbor? Did I
um,
mention it on the podcast?
you might have mentioned it. I think it has to do with what, that they wouldn't. The problem with invading is that they'd see
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Americans have too
He
many
asked
guns.
Tojo. He says after Pearl Harbor, you had a straight shot right to California. It was totally the West Coast was totally undefended. He says,
Yeah,
why didn't you go? And Tojo said to him, we understand you Americans are permitted to have guns in your house. He says, yes. He says, that's why. He says, even had the Japanese army reached California, he said, just going down the street, all you Americans would have had to do is go to your roofs and fire down on our soldiers as they were coming in. He says they might have been able to invade, but they wouldn't have won the battle. He said they probably would have lost a lot of people.
and again, and that's the other part of why it's so important to have the Second Amendment, have the First Amendment and the Second Amendment together. The most important thing: say whatever you want and be able to defend yourself.
Yes,
And
true.
it's those two things. It's like in Japan, police are the only ones allowed to have a gun. It's illegal
Mm.
for citizens to own a firearm. You know, I know places in Europe there's different laws and rules and regulations and whatnot. But it's way more dicey to get a hold of different, firearms. But that
Well, I remember
again,
when I was in college, a friend of mine um, took me shooting,
mhm.
and I had never shot a gun in my life. He puts a 40 Magnum in my hands, and he
Okay.
tells me, now, he says, I'm going to show you what's called straight arm military. He says, put your arms out and lock your elbows, because if you don't lock your elbows, when that gun goes off, it's going to hit you right in the forehead. So I locked my arms. He goes, okay, so now, well, okay, so, pull the trigger, and I put it. I think the gun went one way, I went the other.
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
you're talking about a small hand cannon.
Oh
Especially a
gosh.
woman my size, everyone agrees, would do better with either a 9 millimeter Glock or a 22.
Well, 22 is very small. Um, it's just it's something where it's just like it's nothing. The bullets are very tiny. It doesn't do that much damage at all. Um, but we have like 5 minutes left. I do have one last question. Um,
Uh-oh.
if you saw someone, if someone told you they saw me arguing in the middle of the street, what do you think I would be arguing about?
That's a good question. Wow, what would you be arguing about?
Yeah. What do you think I'd be arguing about?
Um, some female boss bossing you around,
Oh gosh. Yeah, probably something like that.
and the
Jeez Louise.
person telling you, "Oh, she's not so bad. Maybe it's something you're doing."
Maybe. Maybe.
My mother used to do that when I'd come home from school and complain about this kid bullying me around, and so being a bully to me or whatever. Or, she would say, "Well, maybe it's something you're doing."
It's funny you say that because I think you said that to us when we were kids. Yeah. When we were kids, you would say that to us.
No, I didn't. Not totally.
Not
Not totally.
not to the drastic
Not totally.
extent. What you would say was, what is it do you think you're doing that's causing this? I would be
Not
like,
with the
I'll
kids
give you an
bullying.
example. I'll give you an
It was it
example.
was with
When I was
it was with teachers.
with teachers, yes, but it's also be like, I remember being as a kid, I would always get very defensive because
Mhm.
I would be made fun of. I'd be an easy target because I was a reactor.
Yeah,
Um,
kids like that. Kids like to
if
make
you're a
fun of kids that
reactor,
do that.
kids
Yeah.
love it. They eat that up.
Yes.
So kids would very
Hmm.
easily upset me or get under my skin,
Yep.
and I would complain to you. And then that's where you would tell me, like, what do you think you're doing that's causing this? What do you think, is it that people seem to enjoy like poking fun
Hmm.
at you? So I kind
Yeah.
of learned to just disassociate and just let it go because I like being a kid, it's very hard because you don't have the power to walk away. You
Yes.
can't confront at all because
Hmm.
confronting makes it worse. Fighting makes it worse. Everything makes it worse. All you can do is
Hmm.
just disassociate. And
Yeah.
that's something that's very frustrating. And I find
Hmm.
like seeing kids go through that's very upsetting because it's just like that's the worst thing in the world. Can't fight back, just disassociate.
Well,
That's what various victims do in their life where they disassociate themselves. And kids learn that at an early age to disassociate because I can't hit
mhm.
you, I'll get in trouble. I can't go
Right.
to my parents because it doesn't help. All I have to
Hmm.
do is just disassociate myself and just let it go.
Hmm.
It's sad, but what are you gonna do?
It's something that people. I don't know what it is. It's you know
But
I know as a teacher, it was always very hard for me to try to get the reins in on class dynamics, class social dynamics.
mhm,
You could try to talk to the bullies, you could try all sorts of things, but let's face it, you can't be watching these kids 24/7. And you had kids behind your back with like whispered things. Like there were certain kids in the class where you couldn't put your finger on what they were doing, but all you know is that wherever that kid is, there's trouble.
mm,
And you call the parents, say, "Well, what exactly is he doing? What exactly is she?" And it's like, I don't know. But wherever that kid sits or where that kid goes, there's problems.
yeah, yeah, and honestly, it's like the kid. It's not even the kid's fault most of the time. It's just this frustration of just the practice of dealing with life, where like it's not always going to be your fault, but you're always going to have to deal with it. You know, that's the frustrating thing I think people have. Um,
Don't worry. So let the sun shine
shine
in,
in, face
faces
it
in a
with a
grin.
grin.
Smilers
We'll
never
never
lose,
lose,
and
and
frowners
losers
never
never
win.
win.
So
So
let
let
the
the sun
sun shine
shine
in,
in, face
faces
it
in a
with a
grin.
grin.
Open
Smilers
up
up
your
your
heart and
eyes and
let the
let your
sun
sun
shine
shine
in.
in. Yeah, I got different lyrics than you. Um, I love you. I think we're running out of time. I think we're almost out of time.
Okay,
But
sweetness.
have a good Shabbos. Have a
You
good
too.
weekend.
You too.
Relax. Have a good time. Check out those 65-year-olds at shul. I see that. It's okay. And
I
I
mean,
guess
the ones that are all bent over, coming in on their walkers.
that's how you like them, don't you? You